Welcome to this new episode of Serial for August 2024. So we'll directly start with two pictures. As usual, I'm looking at pictures I've taken the previous months or edited the previous months. And the first two images are film, using Harman Phoenix 200 ISO film on an Olympus Pen EE half frame camera, which has a 30mm f2.8 lens with no focus. It's a half frame, no battery, it uses the electricity in the sensor. I will do a video about the Pen EEs. Some of them have sensors that age and some have sensors that work fine. So this is one that works fine because of the technology underneath, but that'll be another video. And these two images are from the Vidi Islands in the Reykjavik Bay. It's really very close to the city. And you can see on the picture on the left, those basalt volcanic rocks, or simply those fields. It's a protected island and beautiful field. It's a really nice place to go for a hike. It's, as I said, protected, so it's really, there's not much on it except art, some art pieces from an artist in particular, a duo actually. We've already seen some of those pictures from this place in the previous month. Same equipment on the left at the start of the roll. It's Thyngify National Park. And of course, this film has a tendency in very highlights. You can go see my video about the Phoenix film. I had done a test before it was released. I talk about the color reproduction. It's kind of funky, but I really love that film. A very nice grain, very artistic. There's no anti-elation layer, so it tends to flare. But here we see the warmth coming out of this film when it's saturated with sun. And on the right, we actually see how the diaphragm and the lens combo on the Pen EE camera renders flares. Kind of interesting. Not sure I like it, but in this picture, I think it works. Same equipment. Again, some details. Just wanted to show how the colors are rendered on a sunny day. On the left, the browns, the grays. You see how warm this film can be, or how those really nice blue skies come out when it's sunny, and the greens. Really interesting film. That's both images are in Reykjavik. The picture on the left here is on the Vidi Island inside one of those greenhouses for visitors. There's not so many constructions, but this is one of them. I really like the rendering. Actually, I really like also the lens characteristics on this camera. And again, this camera works with no battery. It's super compact, no focus to do. It's pretty cool. And on the right, that's Thyngify National Park again, with those beautiful sceneries. Gives you also an idea of the bokeh on that kind of lens focus free lens. I also wanted to test the camera with, because there's going to be a video about it, separate, test it with an external flash. So here, works, great. And also it's gives a good idea of how the Phoenix film reacts to flashes of light. And you can see on the picture, mainly on the picture on the right, you have this orange halo in high contrast, which I kind of find interesting, a little bit like, cine still films, well, Kodak Vision Pro film without anti-elation layer. One last picture for this film camera combo. That's the volcanoes of Grindavíkurbær. Actually, there's a volcano right now that's ablaze on the right part of the picture, if I may say, but that was before. I really like the rendering of this combo and the grain of this film, the color science of this film. And here to compare, that's with using the camera, the Pentax 17, same time, same place, using Hoasca 200 ISO Vision 3 without anti-elation layer beneath. It's basically the same way Cine Still does film. They take Kodak movie film and they removed the layer behind. And that's what you get. And as you can see, the combination of this modern lens, the Pentax 17 is a half frame. It's modern coatings on the lenses. It's 25mm f3.5, so it's a little bit wider angle than the Pen EE before. But very precise, very modern rendering, and very surprising for a half frame, the amount of detail on a film like this one. Here to compare, let's compare a little bit. I took pictures with both those half frame cameras. So basically the Phoenix on the left, with the Olympus Pen EE, and the Hoasca 200 ISO Vision 3 on the right with the Pentax 17. Besides the wider angle on the Pentax, it gives you a good idea of how the film reacts quite differently. The color science is really different on a sunny day. This is in Reykjavik, seeing the sea, those small sailboats. You actually see also on the left that the the Olympus has an older type of lens, tends to be less defined there. It gives you a good idea of the precision of this modern lens in the Pentax 17. Here, same thing, left Olympus Pen EE, old camera, right Pentax 17. Here I definitely prefer the Phoenix color rendering by a gray day with no sun. There's so many graffitis and walls covered with art in Reykjavik, and I don't really like that picture, but I think it was interesting to compare. I actually like the one on the Olympus on the left, but the other one, it's a little too wide angle, but gives you a good indication also of how this film and Pentax 17 react in those conditions. Here we're leaving the comparison. We're going to Pentax 17 with the Hoasca 200 ISO film, and you can clearly see on the picture on the left lack of anti-halation layer gives this aura, reddish, orangey aura in high contrast. That's very particular to those films. But as you can see, the detail is really great. The rendering fantastic by a sunny day. And yeah, again, it emphasizes the quality of the lens and exposition control of the Pentax 17, which definitely is not manual in that sense. I'll do a specific video about it probably in a few weeks. I'm really testing it extensively. I've been testing it for a few months, and yeah, very interesting camera. Again, on the gray day on the left, same equipment, same film. Gray day on the left, very sunny day on the right. We've seen probably this picture anyways, it's a building that they're deconstructing, but really the rendering of color, the detail of the lens, I think it's a really interesting combo. Again, same equipment, same film, same camera. The industrial harbor of Reykjavik seen from the island of Viday on the left, or on the right at a beach near the airport of Reykjavik, which has actually sand. You can guess it on the middle part of the picture on the right. That's actually sand. But you also have the thermal baths, as everywhere, basically in public pools in Reykjavik. Really beautiful Reykjavik in the summertime. It's a fantastic experience. But here again, gives you a good idea of the quality of this of the lens on this camera. Two more pictures, and the last ones for now was the Pentax 17 and this film. So again, a very nice fine-grained film, modern film with halation, and a camera that's reviving modern design and film camera design from Pentax. It has a macro position. I tested that. Just two images I kind of liked on this roll. Here we're moving to something digital, but kind of starting to be vintage. 2012 Leica mount M240 camera. It's CMOS. It had a pretty strong saturation color science. It's actually, a lot of people like it for this. One of those Leicas that has digital Leicas that has really strong saturation naturally. And that's using a lens I hadn't really tested before, the macro Elmar M90mm f4. It's a collapsible lens. It really gets compact if you need compactity in your equipment. And that's on the left. And on the right, that's using an old Minolta 28mm f2.8 M Rokkor lens, which was meant for the Leica CLE film camera. This lens is a little bit hazy, as you can see in the middle of the picture. It feels a little bit, I should clean it, but I had it and I wanted to try it like this, see if it really makes a difference. It does. I will show more pictures from this lens in the future, but before cleaning it and after. That might be an interesting video. On the left, that's north of Denmark, Hirtshals, and on the right, that's the Lake of Skanderborg, basically South Denmark, South Central. Really beautiful Denmark in the summertime. It's fantastic. Here, same equipment, the 90mm, not the 28. That's the same lake. I found it interesting. The picture on the left, that's at the end of the day, and on the right, that's in the morning, same place. It gives a good idea of how the lens actually reacts. Really great lens, kind of not on the superlative in terms of character, but it's very precise, really soft in the color rendering, but got loads of detail. And yeah, the camera is kind of limiting, has its character. I like noise, I like digital noise, I like certain types of sensor. Here it hasn't got much dynamic range, but compared to modern cameras. But yeah, here's what you get from those two very different exposition scenes. Same equipment, still the M240 with the 90mm. On the left, that's central Denmark. This really super nice, cute old little lady that was going down this street with her wheelchair, electric wheelchair. I had the occasion to see her before taking the picture. And this small factory in the middle of nowhere. I kind of liked the ambiance there. Or on the right, that's Løgstør. That's basically almost on the sea. It's a canal just next to the beach. Kind of like the composition, not very phenomenal, but I liked it. Here, still same equipment. On the left, central Denmark. Gives you a good idea also of the flare on this lens. So it's pretty bad and sort of does those rainbowy things. But otherwise, the lens renders fantastically. On this picture, I think it works pretty fine. I would have maybe preferred without the rainbow. I don't know. Anyways, I like to control what I do. I honestly didn't control this. And on the right, I kind of like this swimmer crawling on the sand. That's a beach at Tornby, south of Hirtshals, northern Denmark. Two pictures here, two pictures of Hirtshals. We're talking about this town, a pretty small town, but interesting. Basically, it's home to the ferries to the Faroe Islands, Iceland, Norway, Sweden. So lots of passing through. Not much else actually, but very nice. The people there are cool. The city is pretty cool, and lots of beautiful places around that town if you just drive a little bit further. Here again, M240, same equipment. Again on the left, Hirtshals, and on the right, that's Minigolf in Tornby, slightly south, a few, maybe 20 minutes south from Tornby, from Hirtshals. Kind of like that look here. And yeah, two pictures. Then I actually, this trip was, so I have lots of photos from this trip. It was one of those road trips going through Switzerland, Germany, Denmark, and then ferrying up through the Faroe Islands and Iceland. And that's in between, that's actually arriving on the Faroe Islands with the MS Norrona, which is a beautiful ferry. Actually, I'm not a big ferry guy. I'm not really, I thought it was not really my thing. Honestly, that's the Smyril line that's operating it. A really fantastic 2.5 days of ferry. Fantastic food, fantastic team on board. Really loved it, highly recommended. And there's this midpoint on the Faroe Island. Got seasick depending on it was, I think, particularly a bad frequency of waves or at the beginning of the trip, but they have the medication that works to confront that. So then it was fine. Here, that's same equipment again, arriving on the Faroe Islands in Tórshavn. The special architecture there, really nice arrival in the ports. Here again on the left, basically kind of the same place. With those boats on a gray day, so not very spectacular in terms of contrast and revealing the island because we couldn't really see it, but really nice. And on the right, that's in a low light situation, the line of the boat going across the seas, going up to Iceland. And here you can see the grain that's coming out of this kind of aging sensor of the M240. It was always like this, but I mean, it's an old technology comparatively. Here we're going to something completely else. I've been testing the Ferrania Elioflex II medium format camera because it's very compact. It's one of those dual lens cameras where you focus top down, a bit like the Rolleiflex, and it uses 120 film, so it's 6x6. Here I put Kodak Ektar 100 ISO. I think last time I used it was in Milan. I'm not sure, a few months back. As usual, I test through the months my equipment before doing a video. I like to have extensive operation of what I show you. Here I messed up the winding of the film, so there's some double exposures because I thought I was smarter than the display behind. You can open a small window to see the film roll, and here I thought I could do it by sound alone. That's in Reykjavik, some small details. Very uninteresting photos I did with this camera this time. I wasn't very inspired, sadly. But here you can see what I was saying on this picture. I kind of double exposed each border of the film, of the shots. So yeah, my bad. And this camera has a 75mm anastigmatic f6.3 Ferrania lens, and the speeds are kind of limited. It goes at its fastest 1/200th of a second, and at its slowest 1/25th of a second. But you have a B position if you want to experiment. And the lens hasn't got that much character, but I think it works pretty fine. I'll do a review of it. And it's actually really one of the most compact, non-folding 6x6 cameras. It's super nice to use. Let's go to something else. Going back to the Pentax 17 half frame film camera, and here with Santacolor 100 ISO film. It's actually Kodak Aerocolor that's rolled into cartridges specifically. It's a film that was made, I believe, to take pictures from the air. So it's very precise, very fine grain. I kind of like the rendering. I would recommend you experiment with this film if you have the occasion to do so. On the left, again, central Denmark, and on the right, that lake in Skanderborg. It gives you a good idea again of the quality of the exposure, because you can't fix it manually on the Pentax 17. Pretty foolproof, and the lens has really a good rendering. Really, as you can see on those two pictures, really a good definition, geometry. Even in the borders, it works really well. Doesn't look like half frame, actually, I must say. Obviously, there's half the surface than normal full frame on a 35mm roll, but as you can see here, great. Picture on the right, high contrast. That's one of the only pictures that didn't really go well with the Pentax 17. Lost a lot of information in the low light. I will do the review of the Pentax 17 soon, but maybe one of the dials, I maybe touched one of the dials accidentally, and maybe I've underexposed accidentally. But I do sometimes underexpose to be sure I get details in the highlights. Here, those two pictures before were in central Denmark on the right, in Hirtshals, the city is north of Denmark. Here it's again Hirtshals, by an end of day, a detail of the city which I found interesting. Or here some kind of random sea photo that's south of Hirtshals, so it's north of Denmark. It could be almost anywhere, but yeah, I kind of like this swimmer. If you look in the detail, there's a tiny swimmer getting hit by a wave. Not fantastic fine art, but I like the picture, and I think it gives a good idea of what you can get with this camera and film. And here, I think that's where the power of this combination comes. Santacolor, this film is really nice, works really well, lots of detail. And with this half-frame camera, I actually get what I want, this kind of old school but very precise modern aspect too. I've done a lot of this Pentax 17 these last months, so here I continue, same equipment, going back to Skanderborg Lake on the left, or a simple detail of spare wheels. Gives, again, an idea of how it works, this combination works, or just for the idea of how this film reacts in more subtle, less contrasty situations, and how the auto exposure of the Pentax works. Kind of foolproof, as I said. That's in the Reykjavik center, the Hólavallagarður cemetery. Or also, there's a flash of the Pentax 17. I was trying it. I'm not yet sure what to think about it. It's kind of, yeah, anyways. I'll talk about it in the specific video, but I think it works pretty well in terms of exposition. You can see those glasses on the ground on the left, or this flower in the macro position of the Pentax 17. Does work. Or here during a concert at Inipukin Festival in Reykjavik, just holding my camera top, I'm not sure this is grand art, but super cool concert. And the flash worked with the film. Focus, actually, it's not a rangefinder. It's not autofocus. It's kind of it's an icon-based range icon setting on the lens. It does work, kind of foolproof because it's not such a shallow lens. Here we're going to something else, going back to the Leica M240 digital camera with this kind of aging sensor, using a Pinhole Pro lens, which is basically a hole in an aluminum plate, very precisely milled. And the Pinhole Pro here, you can choose the size of the hole. So you have really a little amount of light on the sensor. And so you really reveal the grain if you don't do very slow exposures. I was handheld, so basically, yeah. And I wanted to test a little bit the grain. And here you go. You get a lot of grain on this picture of central Germany on the left and this kind of donut-shaped exposure because of the pinhole. And on the right, you get this super grainy because the pin is so small and I want it to be handheld a minimum, not too cinetically blurry. So that's what you get. And definitely the characteristic of this old CMOS on the 240, which isn't that uninteresting, in my opinion. Going to the opposite extreme, medium format here with the Leica S007 CMOS sensor, using a Summarit S 70mm medium format f2.5 lens, a huge camera, but brilliant optics. I really like that combo. In the world of increasing number of medium format cameras in the digital world, this is a real reflex. It's super nice to look at. And here it's super nice. The detail, everything are fantastic. That's in Reykjavik and going towards the VD Island. Two more pictures, same equipment. VD Island on the left, a detail on the island of this boat part that kind of was let rusting on the island. It's a preserve, so it's a natural preserve, so nothing's moving really. It's historical. It's a historical site with some art forms on it. You've seen it probably in the serial video of last month. I've already done photos with another equipment there. And the final two photos for this month. You can see the VD Island, the picture on the left, that's from the port in Reykjavik. So it's just a small distance with a boat. It's really nice to go there on a sunny day like this. Great rendering with this equipment. And on the right, that's Reykjavik, one of those sunset in the city. Really, the nights in Reykjavik in summertime can really be nice. They don't really, if you don't expect that, you can see the sceneries online. Everybody talks about sceneries and everything. Super nightlife, the people are great, the city is great. And that to me gave a good idea of the summer nightlife, summer night feeling in the sunset, very late, obviously, because it's very north in Reykjavik. So I hope that was entertaining. If you have questions, suggestions, propositions, don't hesitate as usual, and catch you next time.